When Jim Daniels headed to Vietnam, leaving his whole family, wife, and daughter behind, a fishing trip made him think he was saying goodbye for the last time.
I love to fish, but I'm very unlucky at fishing. And before I went, my dad and my uncle, we went out fishing. And it was the most successful fishing trip I had ever had. So I thought, God's telling me, this is your time, you're going to have a great fishing trip. But I was quite honestly fearful of not coming back.
Being thrown into battle the day he arrived didn't exactly ease Daniels' mind.
The man in front of me, he scooted ahead, and I kept thinking in my mind we're too close together. And just then, bullets started flying between me and him on the ground, and I didn't know what they were. I just saw this dirt flying around. I wondered, what the heck is that? And only later realized they were shooting at us. And then he turned around and said, "Look at this." And there, he held up his watch band, and there was a bullet stuck in his watch band. So things were close, but at the time it was new and exciting, and it really didn't hit me till the next day when we had a lot of wounded and killed, and it sort of hits you then.
Pulled out of the field to teach Vietnamese allies English, Daniel says that was an extremely rewarding experience, but a different connection truly hit home.
The most meaningful and the most powerful impact of my life was the time in the field, and the friendship, the bonding you have with the men around you, because you depend on those guys to get you out of trouble, and they depend on you.
Back on American soil, Daniels, like many Vietnam vets, felt shunned.
After all that time away from home, here I am about 6 miles from home, and no taxi would give me a ride home. So there I was stuck in front of the airport, and no one would give me a lift. And that's sort of a kick in the teeth, you know.
His family, however, welcomed him with the open arms, but they didn't ask any questions about his time in Vietnam.
You just didn't talk about it. You just wanted to get home, get on with your life, and it's not until years later when you really start reflecting on what happened that it becomes important.
2 years ago, those cherished bonds he built with fellow soldiers during the war resurfaced at a battalion reunion.
Even though I didn't know hardly anyone, because they're from different years, different companies, even within our own company, I didn't know somebody else in the other platoon. But we all were in the same boat, and we could just be brothers.
It's through contact with other Vietnam veterans that Daniels came to understand even more about the war.
I've learned that two people right next to each other who shared the same battle, the same fight, were there the same day, walk away with two totally different ideas of what happened. Unless you walked in a veteran's shoes, you can't explain it. You'll never, you could talk for hours and hours and hours and days, you'll never understand.
Meg Bonacorsi, News 9, Marshfield.